Hello, good morning, good evening. Gonna give things a little bit for a few more people, hopefully, to join.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good evening. So technically it looks like there's a lot on the agenda, I suppose, but there's actually a pretty small amount to talk about today. So I expect a fairly long meeting, but the minutes are just long to, or the agenda is just long to be thorough, make sure we're able to track everything day to day right now. I've dropped a link into the Zoom chat there. Well, I'm inclined to go ahead and get started, just since I'm seeing a number of the expected folks for today's meeting, with it being the super early one. So this is the 112 release team meeting, probably our next to last meeting, something like that. Maybe only 3 more meetings. This meeting is being recorded. I'll be uploading it to YouTube, so as always, behave accordingly. So to start out, overall agenda, where we are and things. Yesterday, we did our last branch, fast forward, pulling in master content into the release 112 branch. And then we initiated the master branch thaw. So master branch at this point is 113 content, and it is off and away. I think Tide has got about 100 commits pending that it's working on merging. So 113 is off and running. For us on 112, what this means as we're letting things sit without changes, we're expecting to see CI tests continue to pass successfully, and that will no longer be on the master branch. Obviously, all those commits merging for 1.13 are going to cause it to diverge there. But the release 112 CI signal obviously still remains relevant to us and is the ones we're looking at. There's, I think, 3 things there that happen though in that branch. One, we continue to have test flakes. So there are things that do appear to fail there, but the expectation is, looking at them debugging through the logs, is that it's just a one-off sort of thing, something hosting, and then that the subsequent run would be green again. And so far that has been the case. We are expecting GKE issues to persist, but we're not treating those as blocking. And then we do expect that a few upgrade tests are, there's some known failures there. In particular, ones that now expect the official 112 release to be there for upgrading. I apologize, I've been struggling a little bit with some allergies and a cold. So that brings us up to where we are and what we've got in the next couple of days. So Wednesday or so, probably we should be merging the final release notes. And then Thursday, we'd be pushing the website documentation live and publishing the actual release. So that'll be the big milestone. And then also important is we'll be doing a retrospective as a team to look at how the release went, things that we might be able to improve, suggestions that we could give to Aish and the 113 release team. And that'll be on the following Thursday, October 4th, during the community meeting. So any questions on that, just kind of where we are? Okay, so I will carry on then. On the test infrastructure front, we don't have anybody here to talk about. I'll be following up today because our publishing robot broke somehow last week. I haven't looked into the details of the issues, but there's at least 3 people who've been looking at it aggressively and a number of fixes in flight. So expecting that that's all sorted out in time for Thursday to actually publish the release. And then I also have a question for them because we have this big backlog of commits going through Tide to get into the master branch. If we have something we need for the 112 release branch, our process traditionally is to merge it to master and cherry pick it to the release branch. But right now, sort of extrapolating, I'm not sure if by tomorrow we'll actually have that backlog merged. And there's already one commit in there that we want to get. And then, Young Lee, I think you may be proposing a patch that might need to go in there. So I guess we can talk about that more in a little bit. But just something that we'll need to figure out is how we, if we can preferentially hurry a commit into the release branch without just force merging it directly there, if we can do a cherry pick properly still. So our one remaining issue then, in terms of where we stand on technical content versus CI signal and testing, we've been dealing with some final issues around upgrades, and as of Friday into the weekend, everything there was looking good on the kubeadm front, but we still had one issue in the sort of cluster subdirectory of cluster bring up and upgrade. And it turns out that that was the problem that we've been having on and off with various aspects of the node taints by condition. So there's a PR, one final PR, 68984, that we need to get into the release. And it is all approved and into Tide for merge right now, but we're just waiting on Tide. So hopefully that will come maybe later today and we can cherry pick it in. Yang Li, do you want to tell me about the issue that you pasted into Zoom, or the pull request there?
Yeah, I think so.
You might be on mute.
Yeah. So that PR I thought is approved by SIG storage, and I think it may be good to cherry pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess so. Now I wonder if they had, if this had been intended to actually be in this release. And I'm sorry, I said Yang Li, but it's actually, so Ping 5 or Feiscure, we actually have on the line right now.
So I think these are 2 separate issues, though. There's the CRI-CTL one, and a separate one that I think that was in the channel.
So the 690033 is cry control, and
yes,
yeah, there's Ping 5.
I just opened the issue because cry control has released as a new version for this release, so it should be upgraded for compatible with this release. But I'm not sure why there so much CF failure here.
This, I think, is somewhat expected. Last week we were having a number of issues around CI failures in these particular tests as well. So I think that so one of 2 things: either we have something going on the hosting side, which I'm still a little bit worried about, that's unstable, but it may also be that we have some problems with those particular pre-submit tests.
So hold on. There are 3 that look like they're failing right now from GCE, and then there's an additional COPS one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that COPS one was semi-flaky last week, and at times when it was flaky, also other CI signal from AWS was not looking green, and then it would come back to life. The GCE ones, there had been some discussion on Slack last week about them. Like the GPU one maybe seemed like it was specific. The CubeMark one seems like it's timeouts. And I forget, there'd been a bunch of diagnosis on the Pull Kubernetes E2E GCE as well. But, and there's also a performance one. That one is new. But then one of the things that I've wondered, and I've talked to SIG testing a little bit about this, is whether we're having any sort of like a quota issue, or, and I wonder that a little bit more now that we've got tied in this thundering herd of a whole bunch of PRs under test, because some of these timeouts and that aspect of what I see in the logs feels almost like a oversubscription or resource starvation sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw all the failure timeouts.
So just in terms of timing, right? It with an ancillary tool like Cry, Cuddle, or whatever we're going to call it. When should that land? What's the plan?
Yeah, that's what was going to be my next question here.
Yeah,
so,
this isn't kind bug to me either, right? This is more kind feature or kind something.
Yeah, kind integration. We need there's a label that's missing, I feel like, for this type of stuff. Coordinating it becomes a bug once it's out of sync, but ahead of time, this is just kind of normal integration. So I'm gonna drop a note. Do it right now.
Okay, quick. I found the issue because it is downloading a file that doesn't exist. I need someone who have such access to upload this file. I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
I don't have access to this Google storage, but we need to find someone else to upload the file.
Okay. So I'm going to note that in the issue, and I will chase down some people today to figure out how to get that published. And then I want to see, so, I guess this is more SIG node. I'm going to try to chase down I want to see what SIG node says in terms of when this should merge. Like, does it need to be in 12.0, which I feel like is quite possibly the case, or if it can wait till later?
I mean, that sounds right if we're planning to keep the release of CryCuddle in sync with the actual branch, right? The bigger question is how many other tools do we have like this that need to land at the same time as a release?
Yeah, this has historically been a weakness. We have had a number of other ones going through over the past week or 3 where things were being staged in already in advance. So it may be because this is a little bit newer tool that they haven't quite gotten the flow of when they should be doing that, and we haven't quite identified it as one of the things that we need to be watching for on our side as well.
Hey.
Oh, and we have Dims on.
Hi.
Hey, Dims.
Hi. So the 1.12.0 for CRI tools was just released 2 hours ago. I don't know if that, the CRI CTL is in that as well. So I think it's just something that popped in this morning. So I guess Fiscare is not a Googler, so he won't have permissions. So we'll have to wait for some West Coast folks to wake up.
Yeah.
And then, so FiScare, do you need this in for 1.12.0? Will it cause problems if not?
I think if we could upload the file and fix the CI, it could be in 1.12.
And if it doesn't come in until 0.1, is that a problem?
I think no much issue, but if customers are using new features such as runtime class, it may not work in.
Okay. Well, I will push aggressively today to see what we can do. We obviously got to get the file in place, see how we can get it pushed through the tests, because I also think we're going to have some test flakiness here. Get it merge approved, get it into Tide, and then I'll add it to my list of things to see if it's possible to jump the Tide queue at all to get it in faster.
Yeah, the only question I had here is, do you know, FiScare, do you know who uploaded it last time? Because there's clearly
I believe
some older files.
Randomly.
Okay.
I have already pinned him on both Slack and the PR. But I think he's not online yet.
Yeah. It's 6 a.m. his time. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see the older releases 1.11.0 and 1.11.1. So yeah. So as soon as he wakes up, he should be able to help. If not, we'll find some other Googlers to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
I've manually added the 112 milestone label to that PR just so we see it in our GitHub queries as well. I'll follow up today and see what I can get done there. I'm just noting this down in the agenda also. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to us. Of the other open PRs and issues that are 112 labeled, and also having glanced through just a little bit the recent open PRs in the last day and issues, I'm not seeing anything else that's jumping out immediately as an issue. So I've got our issue counts and PRs listed in the agenda if anybody wants to glance at them, but it's, aside from this new PR 69033 for the cry control image,
Right. So what was our
yesterday?
Yeah. So I mean, I think we also mixed up two issues, right? So what's happening with the storage one?
With
the storage one, at 68435.
Yes. So the new issue 68435 today. This does not look like a blocker to me. It looks like a relatively corner sort of a bug, and unless the SIG comes back and says it must go in today, it's I see it as a 0.1 release fix.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of how I was feeling too.
And realistically, if we're shipping on time, that would have missed the bus anyway. So yeah. So that would be our issues and PRs then for the day. Any other questions, thoughts, worries there? Okay, so one piece of good news that came in overnight. Last week we had merged the update to Golang 110.4 in the release toolchain, and we had been waiting to see if anything changed on the scalability front. It's always just a worry there with those being very long-running tests. And I got a Slack overnight that was looking okay and good. Just want to double check. Where was that message? Oh, it was in a thread. That's why it was hidden, because of that. I believe they said, just want to make sure I had this correct, that it was the 5,000 node test results that they had in today, and it looked okay and good. Where is that? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. A notification came up on my phone and I just read it there, and I'm not sure which Slack channel that came through in. So at any rate, that's good. We'd merged that change, didn't see any destabilization anywhere else in master branch or release 112 blocking. So everything looked good, and confirmation from scalability. So I think we're completely good to go there. The only other things on the agenda then are just sort of like an FYI, no change, just a copy paste from yesterday's minutes. On the documentation front, everything is done and good and pending, and we wait until the release is going live, and at that point we make the new documentation live, so there's not skew there from a user's perspective. So everything's staged and ready there, just ready to press the button there. Should be happening on Wednesday, some final prep, and Thursday publication. Release notes, similarly, things are practically done. Glancing through them yesterday, I would say they're pretty much done. Might be some other late known issue or PR information that gets pulled in. Our one PR for the upgrade issue, that one will have a release note as well that comes in. I haven't looked to see if it's actually there yet, but that stuff should finalize and merge possibly today, otherwise tomorrow. And then communications. So the communications team lines up a set of interviews for a couple of us on the release team, in particular the lead and sometimes the shadow and features lead as well. So Stephen and I this time around have been doing a number of interviews with the press talking about the upcoming release, and sometime on Thursday, Friday, I guess those will go to press, get published on the internet. Not too much more to say there. Any questions from folks?
Just a request, since I'm not sure if we're actually going to have the meeting, but if we have the SIG release meeting today, and as well as the SIG PM meeting, if you guys have any guys and gals, if you have any issues that you want to raise or things that we've been talking about over the last few milestone Burndown and SIG release team meetings, make sure you put that up on the agenda so we can address it.
And especially Yangli and Feischer, I know it's at a horrible time, or both of those meetings are at horrible times for you, but if there's things that you think we should talk about, definitely set them in the Google Doc agenda if you can.
Tim, the only other thing I had was, if you look at the two issues in the milestone 112 from DG Hubble, I'm not able to figure out if it's a testing hole, why we didn't catch those two, or whether it should be, I don't know. It seems like they're using things similar to how Kuberium sets up things, but he still found two problems. So I don't know if we'll probably have to bring it up with SIG testing, I think, to review.
So
Yeah.
just for context, Dalton is former CoreOS and currently builds the Typhoon distro. So if you have used that before, I mean, there are some similarities insofar as it uses Bootkube. So if he's discovering things, I watched the Typhoon repo as well, so I saw a few things like he's been working on pushing out the 112 stuff as well. So if he's discovered something, it's probably worth taking a look at.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, it looked important, and he was actually pointing to some other distro trying to make a change to accommodate what we are doing. So it kind of flows the other way, and we are not getting to know it early enough. Thankfully, the RC2 helped for him to find those issues. So yeah, the other way to do this is see if Dalton can set up a test against our master and see if how we could report that to test grid or something like that. That would be another way to do it.
Yeah. So my understanding, the feedback loop is basically non-existent today. But with the cluster API work and the cloud providers being split out, a number of the providers are working on integrating information back in. So my expectation would be that we'll start seeing more of that as time goes by, but I feel like some are kind of waiting for code and repo splits to stabilize there maybe, or just a little further out of the loop. You got to be a big enough distro probably to have enough resources to dedicate to tracking upstream aggressively pre-release, but you'll end up getting bit by things that aren't well communicated, I guess. So I totally agree. Somehow I missed this one in my GitHub notifications. Your message from a couple days ago saying, should we note this as a known issue? Or actually, I did reply.
Yeah, you did.
A busy couple of days. Yeah. I think it's totally reasonable too, and I see it as something that the SIG should be thinking about and noticing, especially when a distro user is trying to consume our stuff at the RC level. Ideally, we'd be getting their information before sort of today, but those are exactly the sort of things that I think are really ought to be in the known issues so that others don't run into the exact same thing.
Yeah, and it's almost like we didn't know that this was going to cause a problem to somebody. That was the issue there. Like one of the issues is like we generated some certificates, but it turns out that you need a writable directory, and we didn't catch that because of the test suites that we have.
There is
Not
always
replicate
going to be
exactly.
that level
Yeah.
of integration set of assumptions, and that's really why I think the rest of the ecosystem is so important, because they're doing stuff differently, and it highlights gaps like this. So yeah, if whether it's in the core in terms of tweaking tests, release noting, or also just building a better engineering mindset to think about how others consume things and then sharing information so that our developers know how others consume things. That's I'm hoping to see over the coming months and years that we start getting more interactions like that.
Right.
Or we'll keep breaking them and they'll start to be unhappy with us, and it becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that.
Well, I guess I can comment again there. Now that there's a little more debug info, I mean, it seems like the 973 one should have a release note, I would think.
Right. Yeah. Then the other thing that I wanted to ask was there were a few changes to the Kubernetes release repository that went in. So maybe Doug should try a fake mock release.
We pretty much always do mock releases just to be safe, yeah. And especially when there's been a lot going on, and because we're new to all of this as well.
Right. The main thing I want to eyeball is the 512 SHAs, whether we generate the 512 SHA in the code as well as in the scripts. So I want to make sure that they match, because the one that we generate from code ends up in the release notes, and the ones from the scripts we end up uploading.
So if you have a suggestion of an experiment that would be appropriate, maybe we can talk about it on the SIG release channel today.
Yep.
And Doug's definitely around and able to do some things. And if we do it kind of middle of the day-ish, we also have the test info people around as well.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, we are up against the. Or actually, this isn't a half hour. This is scheduled for a full hour. So we can continue to discuss things if people have Any worries towards the release? Any questions about anything we've done? Open floor. Okay, if not, we'll call it a meeting. We will have a meeting definitely tomorrow and the next day as well. And ideally, the release will be out the door on Thursday, and that will be it. And the other calendar invites that are open for after Thursday, I'll be canceling. So retrospective thoughts in the retro doc, please, if you have any, and we will be in touch over the next couple of days. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Later.